introducing myself. I'm Beth Holm. I'm the principal here at Chaska Middle School East. I'm fortunate enough, this is my second year here at East as a principal, but my, I believe, 9th year here at East working in various roles. Mr. Gilbert, our assistant principal, is in the back, and he'll be coming up and sharing some information with you shortly. Miss Rickard, unfortunately, was sick today, so she wasn't able to make it today, but she is our administrative dean and a very important part of our team as well. Then we have Miss Borner, who's right over there, and she is one of our counselors, and Miss Sheehan over in that corner, another one of our counselors, and and she is our personalized learning coach. And a couple of the teachers that we have with us today to share more information with you are Mr. Coleman in the back, one of our math teachers, and Miss McConnell and Miss Woodrow, some of our 6th grade science teachers that'll be sharing more information with you as well. So we're just going to start out today, share a little bit of an overview about middle school, kind of the differences between elementary and middle school, and then we're going to go into some specifics about placement and programming, different models that we have here at Chaska Middle School East. So throughout the presentation, we're going to use Menti. So if you have a device with you and you have any questions, please feel free to go to menti.com and use that code, and that code will then bring you to a spot where you can ask us any questions. We'll keep track of them over there and make sure they get answered throughout the presentation today. And if we have any questions that don't get answered today, we'll be around for questions afterwards, as well as we'll post this on another slide when we send it out tomorrow. All right, so really when you think about Chaska Middle School East, what I think about is how do we make sure kids feel safe and comfortable at school, and also include that exceptional personalized learning that we really value in our district. So a couple of the things that I think about are goals for learners, and like I said, most importantly, making sure that your children feel safe and comfortable here at East is my number one goal. But besides that, I want to make sure that they're learning how to learn, thinking more about not just a fact that they need to recite, but thinking about how can they become learners that no matter what situation we put them in, they're able to think about how do I learn that new information at any possible moment. And really also really thinking about making sure they're not just remembering stuff, but really able to research and use those 21st century skills that you'll see all throughout our building, upstairs and downstairs, all those 21st century skills that we really value at East and try to teach in all of our classrooms. Some of the things when you think about what's the same and what's different about elementary and middle school, I would say the most important thing that's the same is those passionate teachers that are caring adults that know all about the learners that we teach. So when I think about that, obviously elementary teachers are really passionate about that grade level, that K through 5 teacher. And our middle school teachers are really passionate about that middle school student, knowing the developmental needs of that student, your children, and ensuring that we teach what they need at that specific level. Also, like I mentioned before, that safe school environment and making sure all kids have those adults that they feel comfortable coming to when they need something. Also, advisors are really like our homeroom. So when you look through that registration manual, you'll see that throughout a student's day, 4 times a week, they see their advisor. That's a smaller class size that they make sure that they have the same teacher all year long that they can go to and connect with about their needs. And then the same thing, too, we'll have those core subjects, language arts, math, science, social studies. Those will always be a part of your children's day here at middle school, the same as they were in elementary school. And most importantly, when we think about what do we get through the day, lunch is super important. So those lunch pin numbers are the same here at middle school. Some things that are different for students is really that transition of seeing more classes throughout the day as well as getting to know more teachers. Most students will have about 7 or 8 teachers that they see throughout their normal day here at East. And so that's a difference. I think most students in elementary school are seeing more about 3 or 4, and those transitions are a change but a positive one for most students. One thing that I know there's lots of groans and grumbles about when we meet with the 5th graders is no recess. So their lunch is a little bit longer time to eat, but we don't have recess here at middle school. But we always like to think they get lots of movement in between their classes and those passing times, so hopefully that gets some of those energy out for kids too. As you look around our commons area, another thing that's a big piece of a change for students is lockers. It's likely the thing they will worry the most about when they start next year is, can I get my locker open? So it's one thing we practice a lot and reassure them, just like we did when we met with them for registration materials at Victoria and Jonathan, talking to them about we will give you lots of support and help. And when you walked in today, we were handing out the yellow sheets. There's also white sheets back there talking about our parent-teacher organization, our PTO. And one thing that we do at the beginning of the year throughout that first week of school is have volunteers come in to be that another support for helping with lockers during that time also. Some other things that are going to change likely is because two elementaries feed into one middle school is sometimes our friend groups change, and those relationships and getting to meet new people is one thing that changes for a lot of students at that middle school time. And then also, our start and end times are a little bit different. I believe they're very similar to Jonathan now. We used to have a 7:30 start time, but now we are starting at 8:40 and finished at 3:30. So a little bit of a difference between Victoria, but very similar to Jonathan. So what can you expect to see from your child as they transition to middle school? Obviously, it's a time of great change for kids. It's one of the reasons that it's my favorite age to work with, is because we get to see so much growth and change for students in a short 3-year time span that we get to have them here. I think about the 8th graders that were 4 months from saying goodbye to and sending them to the high school. And I think about who I saw them as 6th graders and who they are now. And it is such a vast change in who they are physically, emotionally, and in their academics as well. And really, obviously, we all know there's lots of physical changes that take place in the middle school that cause a lot of anxiety for our students and thoughts of, things are changing for them and how do they handle those changes, as well as some of those social emotional pieces. And the things that I think about in the social emotional area for students in middle school and changing is really that strive for independence and trying to figure out who they are, where do they fit, and how can they become who they want to be. And kind of that figuring that all out can be difficult sometimes. And then, of course, academics, too, is a big change in middle school. When I was just at a parent transition night a couple of weeks ago, and some of the questions that were coming were thinking about how can I support my child in middle school with all these different teachers and all these different systems and making sure I know what they're doing. And that's one of those pieces that's an important part of middle school is trying to figure out how do I balance their autonomy with supporting them as well. And sometimes it's a tricky balance of figuring that out, and it depends upon your child and what their needs are at that moment. But always reach out to us, and we will help support you and them through that transition and make sure they're getting what they need. So really, when I think about what you can do as a parent in that transition, I think the most important piece is to stay involved. Just those regular check-ins with them, checking in with teachers. Obviously, we have parent-teacher conferences the same, way that you guys are used to at the elementary schools, and making sure you reach out to teachers when you have questions. Reach out to myself, Mr. Gilbert, or Miss Rickard if you have questions that you don't think are right for a teacher. Our counselors are always available and ready to help help out as well. I think, too, making sure you're checking in with them on their social media and phones and their Chromebooks, making sure you know what are they doing, who are they talking to, and connecting with their peers and their peers' parents as well. It's an important thing to do at this age. And I think it's also really important to just really be that support, listening and validating who they are and who they're becoming throughout those middle school years. One of my favorite stories, I know Ms. Borner will be happy that I tell this one today. Mr. Bach, our former principal, one of my mentors who's now at Chaska High School, always told this story for 15 years when he was here. And I've seen it happen many times throughout my time here at the middle school too. It was a situation where a student had made a bad choice. Obviously that happens in middle school from time to time. And this kid was in a lot of trouble. He was being suspended. And he knew, the student was really crying and really upset with Mr. Bach, trying to figure out how is my parent going to react to this. And a father came into the office and Jim said, I wasn't sure, was he going to yell with this kid being really nervous about it? And the father walked in and the first thing he did was give his son a hug and told him he loved him. And I think that that's probably the most important thing we can do for our students in middle school is just ensure that they know that we care about them no matter what decision they're making and help them learn and grow from all of those experiences. So I just think more important than anything in middle school, I know it's sometimes a scary time for parents, is to make sure you stay in touch with your kid and know that you're there for them no matter what. So with that, Mr. Gilbert is going to be taking over and sharing a little bit of information with you about the specific classes and registration materials that your children got not that long ago at their elementary building.